Welcome to another board game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
Today we are taking a look at a new-ish game, is what I'm going to say, from Gale Force 9.
Yep.
This is Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core, a cooperative survival game.
Yes.
Period. Okay, so Aliens, dungeon crawler.
We love aliens.
Trying to survive,
Yep,
right?
that's what it is.
That's the core of what this is. This is a cooperative game, and you play as some of the characters from the Aliens film, some of the Marines or Ripley. You can even play as,
Burke,
yeah.
Bishop.
Yes.
Gorman. Newt is a character.
Yeah, Newt's in the game too.
Yeah.
You have a little character sheet, and
each has a special ability.
And then you have a deck of cards from which you give them weapons, you deck them out.
Mm-hmm. And all kinds of equipment, helmets, shoulder lamps, flares, motion trackers, pulse rifles, flamethrowers, pistols, shotguns,
stuff you would expect.
Everything you would need to fight off a bunch of xenomorphs, right?
And then you play through. There's a number of missions which you can link in a campaign. Those scenarios are all parts of the film, right?
Yeah.
It's the kind of the 3 acts of the film. You play through those, or there's just kind of a more generic mode where there's bug hunts, just straight up survival. You set up your auto guns and you sit in a room just trying to kill as many guys as you can. It lasts a certain number of turns. So there's a number of ways.
It's a very versatile game.
Yes, but it is geomorphic map tiles. It's kind of a dungeon crawler style. I got my nice plastic miniatures on the board, blowing the hell out of some aliens, trying to get to an objective, trying to do a thing, get in, get out, rescue someone, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's just trashy fun.
Yes,
I'm just going to be honest. It's just a trashy
fully on
good
board
time.
with that.
Yeah.
We love the film.
There's no doubt the Alien franchise is fantastic. We love Aliens. I love Aliens the most of all the movies.
Yes.
But the Alien franchise is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's just one of those
sci-fi horror is just hard to beat.
And you play this game, you sit here.
It feels like you're in Aliens.
Feels
and Hadley's Hope.
Right, and all you do is you play the game and you just quote the movie the whole time.
Yeah, I think we did it the entire time.
That's the kind of game this is. It's very evocative.
Game over, man. Why don't you put her in charge? In any number of things. 13 meters. That means they're in the room. You're not reading it right.
And it's amazing because he knows every line from this film.
I think I do, which is actually really sick. It's really sick.
But it makes playing this game really enjoyable.
It does.
Because I'm doing a thing and you just recite that part of the movie that my action kind of correlates to. I love it.
It's Drake, we are leaving. I mean, any number of things. I don't know. The game just is really thematic and it sets that tone. It's very dark, as you can see from the geomorphic map. It's very dark. The aliens are imposing. They got those wispy frickin' tails that can cut you in two.
Yeah, or they poke you when you touch them. They're a little bit spiky.
And you've done a great job. You've painted a majority of the miniatures.
Yeah,
Enraged Ripley is not painted.
I found one that wasn't painted.
And there was one egg that was not painted. But, that has helped immerse us in that game. They look great on the table. They're really photogenic.
Yeah.
It's great to see them lined up in different poses with aliens on all sides of them. And it's a great game. It really is. Yes.
And it's a co-op game, right? So it's one of those games that there is a versus mode. But
where someone can play and that's in an expansion.
Yes.
Someone can play as the aliens and kind of try to kill the other player who's the Marines.
Yeah, the other player's playing. But to me, I would most of the time play this as a co-op.
Yeah, and it's really set up well for a co-op.
But that's also partly because we play so many competitive games. When I want to take a step back and just play something enjoyable, we work together to try and defeat some game, right?
Yep. We really enjoy these cooperative games because we're able to challenge each other on what actions are the best or most efficient.
What's the
discuss it?
It's the puzzly nature trying to figure out the best parts.
If I move here and I take this shot, is that better than shooting and not moving or resting? You know, that's what makes these games great.
Yeah, and this game especially has those moments where you're like, we're getting absolutely overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna sacrifice myself to the aliens I'll clog up the corridor with my body whilst everyone else runs away. And you get those moments of, like, we're all working together and, you know, get some stand-up moments, roll some dice.
But all that being said, you know, you end up, I'm going to sacrifice myself. There's always a chance. When you're rolling dice, always a chance, But when you're rolling dice, there's always a chance. How many times tonight
oh my gosh,
was Drake surrounded or Apone surrounded, and they rolled their melee defensive roll.
Yeah.
And they actually rolled under the melee value, which means they split the skull of the alien after dodging it.
Which is so rare.
That happened at least twice, if not 3 times. So that's what I mean. There's always a chance. That's what makes these games great. There's always a chance. When you're rolling dice, there's always a chance.
I love it, right? Because it's that Hollywood moment where the person like sacrifices themselves, or it's like, hold the corridor. Everyone's kind of running back, and they're like waiting, and they don't come back, and they don't come back, and they don't come back, and we're always like, oh yeah. They're definitely dead.
Yeah.
They don't come back. And then they like run around the corner and they're like all haggard. They're like, I made it. And there's like a billion of them behind them.
Yeah.
But they killed so many of them. Like you can do that. And we did that today.
Well, and that's what I think that's what makes this game interesting, because it's cinematic. It has that cinematic feel.
Yes.
Some of those great things or really impossible things happen, and it's like, that was cool.
Yeah, it's got some really sweet moments in it, for sure.
And we survived this one, even though there were 7 or 8 different times where I thought, we're done.
I hung my hat a number of times in this game.
Yeah.
But we had some amazing luck. Mm-hmm. With some of the really opportune rolls, a couple opportune card play here or there, and lining up certain things that were smart moves.
Well, we hit that choke point, and we kind of
claw your way out of desperate situations. I love it.
But this game is very unpredictable. I think that is one of the things that there are times where you're gonna have a tunnel open next to you, and 4 blips are gonna pour out.
Twice happened to me twice,
and it cut us off because that was the only way they could go was in front of us, effectively blocking our progress.
Yeah.
Whereas one time they appeared behind us, and it's like...
You can run away.
We could run away. But that kind of stuff's going to happen. So you just got to expect that, and you got to try to play through it and make the best of it.
Yes.
And I think that's what this game excels at, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
With these motion tracker cards, which represent the aliens coming into the complex, they first appear as blips, which blips on your motion tracker. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then they'll move towards you based on a die roll. Once you get into line of sight, they spawn into... You flip them over. Oh, look, there's 3 aliens at this blip.
Yeah, so you set up 3 aliens, boop.
And then they're going to move 6 per turn, and they can catch you because your movement is mostly 4 or 8 if you double move.
But if you double move, you don't do anything else.
Yeah, you can't shoot. So it's like, the way they set it up, it's really random. Sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it does not.
Yeah, sometimes aliens spawn on the other side of the map, and you're like, sweet. But you usually are drawing like 3 or 4 of those cards.
You draw one for each player represented in the game. Not for your grunts, but for your guys you're controlling.
Yes.
And we could have done that with just 2. We decided to do it each with 2.
But if you only have 2 players, they say draw 2 cards each.
Okay. Even though you're controlling?
Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of ramped it up a little bit to make it a little more difficult.
No, we did what we did what
we're supposed to. Okay.
But like, you're drawing a minimum of 3. If you have 3 players, you do 1 per player.
Yeah.
If you have 2 players, you do 2 per player.
Got it. Okay.
So if you play with 3, you'll draw the fewest of those cards.
Got it.
But yeah, one card might spawn a bunch on the other side of the map, but the other 2, not so much.
Well, they spawn right next to you, or in the blip, or the spawn location that's just right down the corridor from you, or blocks you off. We had that several times where 3 or 4 guys spawned ahead of us, and we just got lucky because you always get that defensive fire when they move up against you, and we just happen to roll well.
Yeah, or you roll a die and the blips only move one space, and you're like,
Yeah, you're like, oh, that worked. Yeah. The other cool thing about it is this endurance deck.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Which the endurance deck, and we already talked about the equipment and the loadout.
This is the main kind of like engine of the game.
Well, and like you said, it's the timer.
Yes.
It can represent your health or your time. I mean, that's what it represents.
Yeah, because your cards, you use cards for... There's 3 different piles, right? There's like the draw deck, there's an exhausted pile, and a discard pile.
Yeah.
The discard piles are like perma
out of the game
scenario. And so when you shoot, you exhaust a card. You just take one, put it in the exhaust pile, and then you take it. Then you do your shoot.
Well,
action.
and it's depending on your gun.
Well,
some guns take 1, some take 2, some take 3. So it just depends on the gun.
You use them into that exhaust pile, but you can do certain actions or certain things, recycle those, that they go back into the draw pile. However, there are some game effects, hazards, real nasty things that happen that make you discard cards. They go from the exhausted pile to the discard pile. And that shrinks what's left in the game. And if ever you don't have anything left that you can draw, the game's over, basically.
Yeah.
And the deck's really big.
Yeah, I would say that's...
I think it's 60 cards.
60 cards.
But
they go quicker
before
than
you
you think.
set up the scenario, you have to take out a bunch of those because those are your equipment cards.
Yep.
So you might say, I don't, if I give everyone like 5 pieces of equipment, you don't have a lot of time.
You're only going to have like 40 cards.
If you give everyone 1 piece of equipment, they ain't very strong, but you've got a bit more kind of time, so to speak, to work with to get it done. And so there's even choices and balance in that opening planning phase, which I enjoy there. But yeah, when you start getting into the real meat of the game and everyone's blasting away, man, you go through that deck real quick. Things get exhausted real quick, and so then you have to rest to get cards recycled, and when you rest, you do nothing.
Yep.
And so you sit there doing nothing. You're like, I need to be shooting, but I don't have anything to shoot with. I got to recycle everything.
And it's really hard to do the rest, but like you said, you got to do it from time to time.
Yeah.
And the good thing is each main character gets 2 actions.
Yeah.
So they can do 2 things. They can move and shoot. They can move and rest. There's any number of ways they can do it. And then they have a command value.
Yes.
So they can command some of your grunts who don't have their full abilities or their special abilities. They're basically just a gun, right? I mean, isn't that kind of what they are?
Yeah, that's really it.
They're just there to round out your squad and make it so you have enough guns to do enough damage. Because at one time, we probably had 20 aliens on the board.
Yeah.
Or 25 aliens on the board.
I think, did we have all the aliens? We had all the blips on the board.
Yeah.
And
most of the aliens.
It was very not good.
So if you don't have 8 or 10 guys with guns, you're not going to be able to survive. And you're just not.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was sat here painting all of these, like, oh man, I hope we use them all. But in each scenario, you use them all.
Yep.
In the basic.
Well, except there were some characters we didn't use, and then some. We didn't use the Queen. We didn't use Ripley's loader suit or the sentry guns. And
those are from the
expansion.
But like I think you get like 8 or 10 characters in the game. Okay. But you play with like 8 in each scenario, right? Each player's got one, and then you have a number of grunts, which is like the leftover Marines.
Yeah.
You basically play with all of them, so there's always these little extra bodies that you can command and help to move around and do things. And it's a nice, I don't know, it's a nice way to add those in without feeling clunky, like it was like, oh, I've got all this extra stuff with these guys.
No, I think
didn't feel like that.
I feel like it's fairly simple to do most of the actions, particularly for the grunts. And your actions, each character's different, so they all have different special abilities and things that happen, and then you got to take into account their equipment.
Yes.
So it's going to keep you on your toes. You're not going to be able to go in there and just know every time, here's what everybody does. Everybody's going to have some different abilities, and that's, I think, what makes it varied and keeps it interesting.
Yes.
So we talked about the the endurance deck, talked about the motion tracker. I think the other really interesting thing is the combat system. So each player is given an aim value or a gunnery skill value.
Yeah.
And it's usually 4 to 8. Vasquez, I think, is the best. She has an 8.
Yeah, she's at an 8. Most other people are 5s or 6s.
Yeah, 5s or 6s. Every time they shoot, that value goes down 1.
Yes, and you have to roll under that number.
On a 10-sider.
So every time you shoot, your aim gets worse, right? You got a big gun, you go...
Yep. You're getting, lack of focus, whatever it might be. But, and most of the guns, like the pulse rifles, you can continue to shoot as long as you hit.
Yes.
You can then discard another card to take another shot. But guess what? This shot's going to be 1 worse than the previous shot. And frankly, on a 10-sided die, there's a wide range of possibilities.
You start with a 50-50 on a lot of your characters. It's not good.
But, funny enough, lots of times we were, my shooting value's a 4. I'm going to try it.
We had some pretty good rolls.
I rolled a 2. So I hit.
And then you get into some of the special characters, like Vasquez with her big fat smart gun.
Yep.
She can spend 2 cards, right? So it's
rather than 3
to shoot the thing, right? It's not one like a pulse rifle. You spend 2 cards, but she can roll 2 dice, keep the best result.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
And so when you need to hit that, 4,
it's much more
dice,
reasonable.
Yeah, you're like, all right.
You can risk it with her.
And then you go down to a 3, and you're like,
I can still risk it.
Why not?
Yeah.
2d10, one of them needs to have a 3. It's not terrible odds.
Yeah.
But if it was just 1d10, you'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that.
And the shooting is 1 shot, 1 kill.
Yep.
If you hit that alien and the stack that's underneath them, you're going to kill one of the units. The flamethrower is ridiculous.
The flamethrower is very powerful.
Because it's going to roll the number of dice based on how many aliens are in that square, and you're going to hit on a 7 or less.
Yeah, always hits on a 7 or less, regardless.
No matter what.
Right, no skill. Shoot my flamethrower. But
we had Frost, and he was lighting them up.
But only has a range of 2.
It does. You have to be really close.
It has to be real close, which is very dangerous.
But we used it up, and man, he gunned down stacks of 3 and 4 fairly often.
Yeah.
And now that we know that, I think the first time we didn't use flamethrowers as much, I'm like, somebody's got to have a flamethrower.
Yeah,
somebody.
In this game, one of your party almost always has to have one. It's such a powerful tool for when the big stacks of aliens come out.
Yep.
Because they can kind of wipe those whole stacks.
Yeah.
Whereas trying to gun those down with bullets,
it's just
takes
a lot
of time. A lot of time, a lot of cards.
Yep.
And that moves your game along very quickly.
Oh, yeah. But I really like the way the cards work. We've now played a couple of scenarios. We've enjoyed it. There's kind of some neat mechanics. The way it works is very cool. And I think it's frankly understandable. Yeah. I think the rulebook, we talked about the rulebook, needs some work.
There's a couple vagaries in it, right? I'm obviously someone who wants very, very explicit and specific rules.
Right. Particularly on these geomorphic boards, like diagonal moves. It's fairly silent on diagonal moves on a corner.
You can make them, and then you get into, how do I do that across hard corners? Can I, yes or no?
So we decided, you can.
You're like, right, it's a cooperative game. The aliens police aren't going to come around and tell you
stop us. Nope, you played that one wrong, start over.
Yeah, but it's like, there's only a certain number of blips. We had them all on the board. When you start playing cards, do they just do nothing?
Right.
Or do I pull blips from off the board? Like, I don't think so. It doesn't say to do that.
Yeah, maybe what it needed.
Therefore, it's inferred that you don't, and so they just stay there.
They just and what really happened was one time this 4 spawn point over here, like 6 or 8 blips spawned there, and it's like they just don't move very far. Yeah. So therefore, future blips never spawned because there was a whole bunch of dudes back here. So maybe that's a rule.
But like, all you got to do is in the blip spawning section say, well, you're limited by the counter pool of the blips. If all the blips are on the board, do not place more blips. Boom.
Right. And it's understandable.
Just say it. If that's what your rule is, which I think that's what the rule is, just
say it explicitly.
That's all.
Yeah. But it's a tactical miniatures game. We've also played Space Hulk.
Yes.
Fairly often. Feels very similar.
Yes.
Space Hulk is set in the Warhammer universe, but let's be honest.
And they definitely didn't rip off Aliens.
No, it's not Alien.
They definitely didn't.
Yeah, the board game. It is, but we've played that quite a bit. This seems similar. There's some differences. There's some things I like in that one that I maybe wish were in this one, like the Overwatch. That's a really cool
The Overwatch
ability.
is pretty sweet in that one.
You kind of have it here because you always get a shot when they come up
but
to
they
you.
have to be adjacent.
But they have to
that
be
one
adjacent.
you can shoot from far away. You sat there with your bolters going, bop, 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 bop. Feels great.
But what I'm saying is, if you like Space Hulk, you're going to enjoy this game.
Yes.
Lots of similarities. There's some differences, but it feels similar.
And I think
dungeon crawl, geomorphic.
This
maps,
theme probably
etc.
appeals to more people than 40K does, I imagine.
But for an Aliens game, I think this is a very interesting, fun, challenging. This is not an easy game.
No.
I think we're going to lose just as many as we win. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Yes. One thing to know about this game, and I don't think we knew this when you bought the game. The miniatures require genuine hobby assembly.
Yeah.
Now, I love doing that.
Yep.
I paint an ungodly amount of miniatures, and I like assembling and building them. I think it's a pastime that I have.
Yeah.
So he bought the game, and he opened it and was like, "Oh man, they're on sprues." You were immensely disappointed by that.
Well, I was totally surprised.
I was immensely excited by that.
And the only reason I wasn't excited about it is because I don't have the ability to do that. I don't have the glues. I don't have the patience. Yeah. I would break those alien wispy tails in two, and they would never get put on the models.
So he just brought those over, and I spent a couple weeks building and painting all of that stuff.
Did you paint all of it?
I have...
Is all of it done?
I have one egg and one enraged Ripley miniature.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to check on that.
Because
now we're getting close to those scenarios. We need enraged Ripley. Just FYI.
You also bought the Ultimate Badasses expansion,
which has a queen and the loader.
And the Get Away From Her You Bitch expansion.
Yes.
And the Terrain Pack expansion.
I mean, we went all in.
So yeah, we've got all this cool stuff, but understand that it's plastic. It's grey plastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's that's actually not true. The terrain is grey plastic. The characters are green plastic, and the aliens are black plastic. Okay. I have to remember that. I say grey because they're all painted, and I didn't remember that. So you can just play it out of the box, and they're different colors. So you can differentiate them very easily at eyesight. It's not all grey. It's not a sea of grey.
Yeah.
I, however, thought they were great to paint. I really enjoyed doing them because I don't paint a lot of stuff that's from films and IPs that I know. So it was interesting doing that. It was a nice exercise. Yeah. And so the alien miniatures, the xenomorphs, are pretty fragile.
We're gonna break them multiple times.
And it's the tails. The tails are very long and very slender. Gluing them on is nightmarish anyway.
And when you put them on the board and they start stacking up on each other,
they get a little bit clingy.
Moving one, you end up moving three because the tails get hooked.
Spiky bits.
Yeah, that to me is a design choice that they should not have made. I would have wrapped those tails around their legs or done something different.
Bigger squares.
Or something.
Something like that.
Bigger squares would have given more room so they don't hook each other.
But understanding that if you buy this game, there is some hobby pick up that you got to put it. You got to cut out the miniatures. You got to glue them together.
If you don't have the ability, or you don't have a friend who has the ability, this game's going to be a challenge for you.
Yeah, and it's not a little set of clippers or a hobby knife to cut them all off and some super glue to glue them together. If you bare bones, that's what you wanted to do. You're gonna have to do that and get away with it. It's totally fine. But there is some time investment. You cannot buy this and bring it home and set it up immediately.
That's what I was disappointed at.
There's that whole uptake that you got to do.
Yeah,
but
when it's all done, they look pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I was very happy to have done this project. I really like these miniatures.
Yeah,
because they are, considering they're mass market miniatures basically. They are very well detailed. They look great.
I only need to know one thing. Where they are. Sorry.
But that's what this game is.
Yeah,
You'll sit here pushing these guys around, blowing the hell out of some xenomorphs.
And making quotes throughout the movie.
Making cheesy quotes.
Yeah,
and it's great.
We did it all night.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
The game system is fun, but the real fun to me is the theme of the thing.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the romp that is aliens and just carving some guys up with big guns. Right?
Yeah, I've enjoyed this immensely, frankly. They do have another expansion that was announced a couple months ago.
Do you know what it is?
Well, I'm talking about the APC model.
That's available. I actually saw that at a local game.
Right, but it was an expansion that came out kind of
Okay.
recently. We could have used that tonight because we were actually in the APC trying to make an escape attempt. It would have sat there
That APC,
with no purpose, but
you can't even use it.
it's cool looking, but it's unusable. It's not open. You can't take the top off.
It's a single block of resin.
Yeah, it's silly.
And it's $50.
Yeah, it's
and
silly.
It covers up a part of the map that has squares that you need to move through.
Right. So what they should have done is made that where the top comes off and then had the square grid inside so they could have used that.
Maybe there's a different scenario where like it's just like sits in the middle and you play around it,
Or
maybe
something.
like it's just in a room.
Yeah.
But functionally, I don't.
That's a little disappointing, but anyway.
Is this the APC right here
yeah, I think it is. Yep, it is.
with the inside that you need to be?
Yeah, there you go.
Do you put that on top of the APC
I
when
do
you
not.
buy it?
I do not know that.
So
Wasted opportunity.
yeah,
Gonna be honest.
APC is the only thing we didn't buy.
Yeah.
And frankly won't. But yes,
Won't buy it.
this is this is one of these fun, enjoyable games that we play.
Yeah.
We played the Legendary Encounters
Oh, we
alien
love-
deck building
we love
game,
that.
and it's a similar type of like that. This goes in that kind of space in my kind of hobby and board game world.
Yeah.
Right. We play a ton of historical war games.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just want to enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, we just want to have some fun.
So we whip out
Light
that game, and the game destroys you. Right.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
That
themes are
game
great.
we've won probably 2 or 3 times, and we've played it 30 times.
Yeah.
This game we're 2 for 2 now,
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but
we're doing
we're
better.
2 for 2.
but yeah, they're all good. They're all tough. They're all challenging.
But it's a very similar type of feel, right?
Yeah.
Odds are stacked against you, bad
Yep.
things are happening, just trying to survive and like get your objectives.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to have all the cute miniatures on the board, and I enjoyed this very much. So
Agreed.
appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core from Gale Force 9. I've been Alexander from PlayerSaid.com.
And I'm Grant.